Hello. Welcome to a podcast on the law and its impact on computing technology and business. This is Brian Gaff. I'm a senior member of the IEEE and partner at the McDermott, Will & Emery law firm in Boston. The IEEE is presenting this podcast in conjunction with my column that appears each month in Computer Magazine, a publication of the IEEE's Computer Society. That column discusses legal issues relevant to people in the computer hardware, software, networking, and service businesses. In the last podcast, I discussed some issues that need to be considered when you're starting a software company. This podcast will discuss legal career options for engineers and scientists, which is the topic of the December 2013 column in Computer Magazine. Joining me today is my co-author of the December 2013 column, Judy St. John. Judy is a managing director at Major Lindsay in Africa, a leading recruiting firm for legal professionals with offices located worldwide. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you, Brian.
Judy, I think it's safe to say that most engineers and scientists aren't aware of alternative careers available to them in the legal field. For example, I doubt that most engineers realize that there are programs at certain law firms and companies that allow them to attend law school at the firm's or company's expense while they work as technical specialists and assist lawyers with intellectual property cases. Can you describe how these programs work and how common they are in today's legal market?
Absolutely, Brian. Many law firms, both full service and IP boutiques, have programs designed for technical specialists. You must have a science or engineering degree and demonstrated expertise in your field. Technical specialists are expected to be accepted into an evening or part-time law school program local to the firm. You'll become a member of a practice group based on your science or technical background. Typically, a technical specialist focuses on patent prosecution. However, your science skills may be better suited to a litigation-based workload.
I know that many technical specialists work full-time during the day and, as you mentioned, attend law school part-time at night. So that's a 4-year process to get a law degree. Is there usually an obligation to stay on at the firm that is paid for the law school education?
There is no contractual obligation, but the majority of technical specialists remain at their respective firms for some time after law school graduation. They feel a certain sense of indebtedness to the firm for allowing them this opportunity, and by then they've really established relationships with some of their colleagues, and it just makes for a very nice future for them.
Well, let's talk about the environment, the work environment in a law firm. Many engineers might work in companies where their work and hours are pretty well defined. Of course, there are occasional deadlines and long days to get a product ready for release, and those aren't uncommon. But a law firm's a different kind of animal. There are usually multiple projects, such as multiple litigations, multiple patent prosecutions, and between which attorneys need to juggle their time. And the hours can be, and usually are, pretty long. What should a newly minted attorney fresh out of law school expect as he starts his new job at a law firm?
As you said, Brian, newly minted attorneys should expect a steep learning curve, and the performance bar is set extremely high. Long hours, unrealistic deadlines are common. The good news is that most firms will provide a mentor from that same practice group, which will provide some guidance and a better understanding during the first part of your career.
And let's talk about seniority in a law firm. We talked in our column about the partnership status and the track associated with it. We'll get to the track in a minute, but when attorneys stay on at a firm where they've worked previously as a technical specialist, you've mentioned that they'll have certain advantages because they'll have relationships with their colleagues and so forth. But how does that affect one's seniority in a law firm, the time you spend as a technical specialist?
That's a great question, Brian. Once a technical specialist graduates from law school, they can receive compensation credit for previous industry experience, and this will put them on more of an accelerated partnership track long term. They're also compensated and given the same benefits in most cases as associates of the firm.
Let me ask you a question briefly, though, about compensation. We mentioned in the article that starting salaries for new associates in some of the bigger firms can range as much as $160,000 per year in the U.S. How's that been over the last few years? The economy's been pretty volatile, and there's been a lot of ups and downs. I take it that the folks with the technical backgrounds who are attorneys who can work as patent attorneys or patent litigators, those folks are still pretty much in demand, would you say?
Absolutely, more than ever. I have monthly telephone conference calls with my colleagues all around the country, and it's just an absolute that there is a very high need right now for IP attorneys.
That I think is good for our readers to know, because I really think many engineers are, in some cases, living in something of a bubble when it comes to understanding what's out there for alternative careers in the legal field, and how they might take advantage of some opportunities there that can be very attractive in terms of the types of jobs that would be open to them, as well as the ability to get additional education at effectively no cost if you're associated with a firm or a company that is paying for your law school tuition. I should note that some of the larger companies that I've seen also have something similar to a technical specialist type position, sometimes referred to as a patent engineer or a legal assistant, and it's basically the same thing. It's in a company. You're working as as sort of an intern almost in the legal department, but paid a regular salary and expected to be going to law school at least on a part-time basis. And then at the end of that program, sometimes there are opportunities, and I'd say probably more times than not, there are opportunities continuing to allow you to continue to stay on with the company as an in-house attorney. And there are definite distinctions, as we noted in our articles, between in-house attorneys and those that work in the law firm. But going back to the law firm for a moment, I'm not sure everybody understands what a partner is in a law firm and what the timetable is and to attain that kind of status. Could you briefly describe that?
I'd be happy to, Brian. It varies from firm to firm, but basically those deemed best among the associates who did the necessary work, stayed on track for the requisite number of years, which could range anywhere from 8 to 10 now, depending on the firm, could expect to become a stakeholder or a partner of that particular law firm.
And the associates who are on such a track, and generally all associates, they're subject to pretty much regular reviews on their performance. Is that right?
Absolutely. Sometimes there are annual reviews with some interim reviews in between to make sure that associates are on track, billing, and executing, high performance work products.
Exactly. And when you talk about billing, that's sort of the holy grail right now in law firms. There's been a lot of talk over the years about the so-called billable hour, but right now I think it's safe to say that most law firms look at the billable hour and the amount of billable hours that each person needs to account for every year, and that's time billable to a particular client or series of clients. Those are pretty important metrics to achieve, and that can be anywhere from 1,700, 1,900, maybe 2,000 hours per year. And the folks who are interested in this, frankly, need to do the math. If you need to bill, say, 1,800 to 2,000 hours per year to a client, you can divide out how many work days that would require. But keep in mind, not every hour, every minute of every day that one is in the office is time that you can bill to a client. So it's important to realize that the workload is generally more demanding than I think what you would see particularly in a large, well-established engineering company. I think maybe startups where there's more of a life or death kind of environment might be a little different, but for the most part, the workload can be pretty significant. Would you agree?
Absolutely, Brian.
Thanks, Judy, for your views on this. We hope you found this podcast helpful. Changing careers isn't unusual. However, it's important for engineers and scientists who have an interest in intellectual property law to realize that there are opportunities for them as lawyers, or as described more fully in our column, patent agents or expert witnesses. Stay tuned for the next month's column in Computer Magazine. Until next time, this is Brian Gaff. Feel free to contact us via email at bgaff@mwe.com.
Or Judy St. John at jstjohn@mlaglobal.com.
Thank you.